Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Expendable Show. It's Wednesday. I know I've been slacking, but Sunday I had to go to. They were doing auditions for the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta show, so I had to be there for that for several reasons. But that was a lot of fun. It was a long night. I'll tell you. I didn't get home till like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was crazy. So that's why I wasn't here on Sunday. I was there in spirit, if that counts. So that's let's get right into things. Let's get our sponsors out of the way. Brought to you by Gatsby Trading Solutions and the Islamabad Telegraph. Okay, Bonnie's got jokes. Bonnie's a jokester today. So I'm also working on a big project for the city of Atlanta that my dear friend Amon Hardaway recruited me for. So she's big in the music industry in Atlanta. She's produced so many music videos and documentaries and movies. She's been in some of Tyler Perry's stuff. But we have a music festival. Well, it's a city festival here, and it's called the 404 Day Weekend Music Festival. And it's citywide. There's like 5 different themes going on. And so I will be I've been running around collecting sponsorships for the music festival part of it. And there's the logo for that. So 404 is the area code of Atlanta. So I've been working on that too. That's trying to get these giant corporations to notice my emails and email me back and give me access to stuff. It's kind of challenging, but I'll figure it out. So let's get into our statistics for the day. Gas went up again, so we're at $2.88 on average per gallon. It's hovering like right around $2.54 a gallon here. Mortgage rates hasn't changed. We're at 5.990% on average, of course. I don't like it. It's stupid, but hopefully we're supposed to be getting a new chair. There's still some debate on whether or not that's going to happen, but it sounds like Trump's going to get his way. But we do need someone. He's already said, hey, if the data shows that the rates need to go down, so we're going to do that. So we'll do that. Trump's approval rating he's up to 42.9%, so he's gaining some ground. Let me see what the Dow Jones closed at today. I didn't always forget to do it before the show. The Dow Jones closed at $49,501.30. That's pretty good. I like that. If we hit 50,000, that's going to be crazy. So the Democrat Party gained some percentage points in their favorability. They're at 35.8%. That's still a big failure, but they are getting better. I don't know how. So some of the big international news today, Trump and India, they made a deal on the tariffs. So it helps me out a ton because I do a lot of international importing and exporting. So I haven't really been able to do business with India, and now I'm going to be able to. So the India-U.S. trade deal announced yesterday centers on the U.S. lowering tariffs on Indian goods to 18% in exchange for India stopping the purchase of Russian oil and reducing barriers for American exports. This shift is expected to boost U.S. energy sales, agriculture, and manufacturing exports, creating economic benefits for American workers and industries. Hey, Linda. And the public service announcement, Jason Early is innocent. We got to make sure we add that in there. So the deal includes, so the U.S. tariffs on India, they went as high as in between like 25 to 50%, depending upon the industry. Hey, Rachel. But we're down to 18%. India agrees to halt purchase of Russian oil, instead buy oil from the U.S. and potentially Venezuela. India commits to lowering trade barriers and significantly increasing imports of American agriculture, tech, energy, and other products up to $500 billion in various sectors. Now, I was on the news in India yesterday talking about this, and it wasn't the normal India channel, the Republic. They're more of a they're like India's version of Fox News. But I was on another one, or no, it was in Pakistan. So Pakistan, it was a liberal channel in Pakistan. And so they bring me on because they like that I will debate on there. And so I was talking about this. They had this doctor on there, some economic doctor. He was like, oh, this is going to be a bad deal for India. You know, the United States is taking advantage of everyone. I said, you got to stop looking at this economically. This isn't an economic deal. It is, but it isn't. It's a geopolitical deal. And what it does is, if you look at the scope of what Trump's been doing, he took away Venezuelan oil from Russia. Now he's taken away India, who buys Russian oil. So where's Russia going to start getting money from now that Trump is choking out their economy? I know he said that's not what I'm doing. He said, I'm not trying to choke them out. I'm not trying to choke Cuba out. But that's exactly what he's doing. He has to say that he's not being intentional, but he is. That's exactly what he's doing. And it also kind of kills two birds with one stone, because as soon as we increase tariffs on India, they went right across the border into China and brokered a deal with China. Now, China has a hefty tariff on India, but it's not as much as what we were issuing to them. So now that we're at 18%, India's all on board with American products now. So it's going to be a good deal. And, you know, this liberal economic expert, he was trying to paint this picture that India's not going to make any money off of this. That's not true. We import a lot of Indian goods. Now they'll be able to import without a humongous tariff. So it's going to benefit everyone. These guys, they're always it's like this in every country. Anytime I get on a liberal news channel, they do the same thing that CNN and MSDNC does. They just bash Trump. They hate Trump. It doesn't matter what he does. They just hate it. And they don't really look into the facts of nothing. So I had to educate this guy. It made me feel like, well, maybe I should have a PhD or something, because that guy had a PhD and he was dumber than a box of shit. But I can't say that on international television. So how does this help the people of the United States? That's going to be the key. So India is shifting away from Russian oil. It means more demand for U.S. crude, which supports American oil producers, refinery jobs, port and shipping industries, which is huge in my industry. This can strengthen the energy sector employment and increase federal and state revenue. It's going to be a boost for the American farmer, because they're going to start buying our agriculture, which is a good thing. We need them to do that. Our farmers are going to do well here. Analysts expect the deal to increase U.S. agriculture exports to India, more demand for American farm goods. It'll help the farmers get higher, more stable prices. The rural economics will grow, and agriculture supply chains. Now, the big asterisk there is, is Trump going to regulate the brokers of the agriculture industry? Because that's what drove prices up during the Biden administration, was the middleman was getting in there trying to get a bigger cut. So that, you know, that's something yet to be seen that I'm going to be paying close attention to. So it's also going to strengthen the U.S. trade position globally by reducing India's reliance on Russia and increasing its reliance on U.S. goods. The deal expands U.S. geopolitical influence. It strengthens supply chains with a major democratic partner, which we want to be friends with India. They're a good trade partner. They have a lot to offer, and they do make decent goods. It'll help stabilize global markets in ways that benefit American consumers. As trade barriers fall, Americans may see lower prices on certain India imports, which we will, which will be like textiles, which India makes a lot of rugs. I don't know if you all knew that. India is a huge rug manufacturer. They also make pharmaceuticals and like other manufactured goods. It's more suitable supply chains. They reduce inflationary pressure in some sectors. So we're going to start seeing prices go down. Coca-Cola just announced that, ironically, with good timing right before the Super Bowl, that they're going to lower their prices across the board. So that's a good thing. They did that right in time for the Super Bowl. People are going to go out and buy a bunch of Pepsi products. So the deal is structured to increase U.S. exports, especially in energy, agriculture, and technology. So that's what we want. We want the world buying our technology, not China's. So that's why Trump is making a huge push for, precious minerals like quartz, which is basically one of the largest quartz deposits is right underneath Somerset, Kentucky, according to the Hellier documentary, which I believe they're truthful with that. So they may just dig up Somerset. Trump may just show up with a backhoe and go, I need that. That'd be hilarious. And then, we need all those precious minerals that are down there. That's what we make our, like the quartz and crystal. That's what we make our little processors for our computers and our phones. Like all that stuff has crystal and quartz in it. So there's a lot of, things we need that stuff for, especially as technology gets more vast. All the cars out there depend upon it. So, Trump's doing his thing. Real quick, I'm going to cover the update on, I don't know if any of you have heard, but Savannah Guthrie, who's a news anchor, her mom was like abducted from her house. So I'm going to cover that real quick because I've been paying close attention to it because that's all they talk about in the morning on the news. I'm curious. Like I kind of want to get into that investigation and find her. I don't know the way they want to find her though. Just hearing what they've released about it. So authorities in Arizona continue to investigate the disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy Guthrie, who's believed to have been abducted from her Tucson area home. Investigators say she did not leave willingly and that the case is now being treated as a crime involving possible kidnapping. I know they said that they found a blood trail, so I'm hoping that she's still alive, but when you start to add some of these things up, that there's probably a good chance she might not be. However, there was a development yesterday that says that maybe she is alive. So Nancy Guthrie, she's 84 years old. She was last seen Saturday night in the Catalina foothills near Tucson. Family reported her missing Sunday around noon. Investigators believe she was taken from her home while she slept, with the sheriff stating that she didn't walk out and she didn't go willingly. So there's cameras there, so I'm guessing they saw something. A ransom note was sent to TMZ containing specific details about the home and what Nancy was wearing. Authorities are analyzing its legitimacy. Reports also describe blood inside the home and a trail leading away from the front door, along with signs of forced entry. As of now, no suspects have been identified. Investigators say they do not know her current whereabouts. So Sheriff Chris Nanos has urged neighbors to check home security footage and report anything unusual. President Trump has publicly called the situation terrible and said the federal government is prepared to assist. Savannah Guthrie released a statement asking for help and praying for her mother's safe return. So that's that. Let's go on to one of the funniest stories that I've come across in the last couple of days, besides anything that happens in London. Billie Eilish, this great talented musician, who her songs all sound like they're like like, well, like how, that's not singing. It's just talking in a pulse. There's no talent there. However, we will discuss what she said. Billie Eilish used her Grammy. She won a Grammy. How do you win a Grammy for that trash? Billie Eilish used her Grammy acceptance speech to declare that no one is illegal on stolen land, sparking a lot of clapping from other extra privileged liberal actors and musicians. And there was a backlash, especially after the Tongva tribe, whose ancestral land includes the site of Billie Eilish's LA home. So they put out a statement. They're like, wait a minute, you want to talk about stolen land? You better check and see where your house is sitting. So she hasn't said anything since that tribe kind of took that shot at her. I mean, I don't think they're going to go after her and take her property, even though they probably do have a legal right to potentially do that. However, she got proven to be a moron, which I love it when celebrities get proven to be a moron. So during her Grammy Awards speech, she made a political statement. She said no one's is illegal on stolen land while wearing an ice out pin. She added that people must keep fighting, speaking up, and protesting, ending with F ICE. Yep, we can do, Tessa, we can do hearts up for Jelly Roll. He had a great speech about faith. I thought Jelly Roll had a really good speech there. I'm sure all the liberals were all rolling their eyes and clutching their pentagrams and whatnot, all the crazy weirdos. So her comments referenced the idea that the U.S. was built on land taken from indigenous people, and therefore labeling migrants as illegal is morally inconsistent. Shortly after the speech, social media users pointed out that Eilish owns a multi-million-dollar LA home located on land historically belonging to the Tongva tribe. Critics accused her of hypocrisy for invoking stolen land while living on it herself. Isn't that the dumbest thing? Yep, Rick. I give big props to Jelly Roll because that's not an easy thing to do because he's surrounded by the enemy. And he went up there and he stood on his faith. And I have nothing but humongous respect for that. So the Tongva tribe issued several public statements addressing her remarks. They confirmed that Eilish's home sits on ancestral territory. They said they appreciated the sentiment behind her message, but felt her rhetoric lacked direct acknowledgement of the specific tribe whose land she referenced. They noted that Eilish has never reached out to them despite invoking indigenous history in her speech. Some tribal members and commentators suggested she should take a meaningful action, such as engaging with the tribe or supporting indigenous causes if she wants to use their history and political statements. I agree with that. I think if you're gonna do stuff like that and make a stand for the indigenous people, put your money where your mouth is. You're filthy rich. You're part of the caucus that came over and stole the land. If we want to do it that way, the way that the liberals always want to backtrack everything to where our ancestors 200 years ago that we're supposed to still get penalized for everything that they did. But Billie Eilish should probably do something for that tribe. Donate something or something. So it became a flashpoint because it kind of blended immigration politics, which all these idiots were up there doing immigration politics. It was trash. I don't know. I haven't watched the Grammys in probably 20 years. It also shows celebrity activism, which never comes out to benefit them. The celebrities screw up activism every single time. It also brought up indigenous land rights. So now you're seeing more of the indigenous tribes come out and say, yeah, you idiot. You don't even know your history. You don't even know what you're talking about. She's gotten a lot of public scrutiny, so she's probably going to hide under a cave, hide in a cave for a while. So next on the agenda, we're going to talk about briefly the Epstein files and why I don't feel like it's going to be worth talking about. So I know my dear friend Nicole Hidalgo, which some of you know her by Smokeahanas. She is hot and heavy on the Epstein files, and I'm not going to dig into them like that because, for one, I'm just going to read what Nicole says about them because she's on it and she's 100% accurate all the time. So I'm just going to wait until she gets done and see what she comes up with. However, this is one of those situations where a lot of people feel frustrated. Those files they're a lot. It's going to take people a ton of time to get through all that. So yeah, it is a lot. Thanks for joining the show, Juju. I appreciate it. So the public release of the Epstein documents is very disturbing. There's some stuff like photos and stuff that they can't release, obviously, because of the graphic nature, and it's just they shouldn't release it. But the path from information becoming public, and that's where we need to understand this as we look at the Epstein files. You have information that became public. Now, what's the likelihood of that sprouting actual legal consequences? I think we're gonna be disappointed. I feel like we're gonna be disappointed. If there was a pending investigation, Pam Bondi would not release the majority of that information. So that's why I think that she wants that. The idea is to get it out, let everybody look at it, and then let it die. I don't think we're going to see any prosecutions. I know that they're trying to get the Clintons to testify. I think they're trying to get former Prince Andrew to testify in front of Congress. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I also saw something on X where Bondi was retracting some of the involvement of the Rothschilds family members. So I'm not real sure. I'm not going to get excited. I'm not even going to look into it really until it's all said and done. Like I said, I'm just going to read what Nicole Hidalgo says. So that's when I talked to her, she's been trying to get me some information for like a week and a half now. And she keeps texting me. She's like, I'm sorry. I'm behind. I'm stuck on the Epstein files. There's so much stuff to go through. I said, okay, that's fine. Which she's a fantastic, her writing is so good. I don't know if a lot of you follow her on especially Facebook and X. She does such a great job on there, throwing things out and looking at things from different angles. So tip of the hat to you, Smokeahanas. We don't always agree on everything, but overall we do. So what the documents actually are, so there's a lot of allegations. There's a lot of depositions. There's a lot of names mentioned in testimony. There's a lot of references to flights, meetings, or associations. Yeah, Rachel, she's definitely worth following. She is a very, very good person to follow. Nicole Hidalgo. I think Bonnie and them all follow her too. Probably Rick does too, I would imagine. So what we've seen, there's a lot of information there that doesn't specifically, implicate anything. Like it says, oh yeah, this happened. That's all circumstantial evidence. The smoking gun is kind of missing. So I'm waiting to see what transpires out of that. So, we'll see how it goes. It doesn't automatically prove criminal wrongdoing by every person that's named. Because of that, law enforcement can't act on the documents alone. It's like they're throwing out the Donald Trump stuff that somebody sent something in anonymously saying Trump did this to me, and we don't have a name. It's anonymous. Apparently the feds know who that person is. And they said that she was completely not credible, and she ended up in a mental institution shortly after. So like, there's a lot of stuff, man. When you start putting hotlines out there, you're going to get all kinds of craziness that calls in, and the Fed's got to log that stuff because you never know. So, and that's part of, what's come out. People are going to feel skeptical. Historically, cases involving wealthy individuals, international networks, and high-profile political or business figures tend to move slowly, if at all. It's not judgment; it's just an observation. So, I think there's a lot to go through, and I think that with what I've seen so far, it's not a smoke. There's no smoking gun. And they're going to need a smoking gun. If you're going to go after some of the most powerful people in the world, you had better have everything put together. So, but even if new criminal charges don't emerge immediately, the documents can still lead to renewed investigations, civil lawsuits, public pressure, congressional inquiries, or media scrutiny, which we're probably going to see all of that. Those forms of accountability can still have real impact, even if they don't look like criminal prosecutions. It's possible that some cases get reopened or expanded, especially if new witnesses come forward. It's also possible that very little changes legally because the system requires more than allegations to move forward. The tensions between what people feel morally and what the law requires is why this topic feels so unresolved. Okay, Kentucky, are you guys ready for the main event? So there's quite a few different angles we're going to take today. Yeah, you're right, Rachel. It is missing the meat and potatoes. And maybe it's there. Maybe it's in the 6 million pages or whatever. I'm not going through all that stuff. I got more important things to do. Somebody's going to have to cut me a check to look through all that. So I want to talk about the London torture chamber guy. Does everybody remember this? We covered it briefly on my show a few months ago, but this case sits on my mind a lot because as I watched, I just went through last week and I binge watched Hellier again, and there was some things that they found that match this guy. And as soon as I watched Hellier again, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what happened in London with this guy. So we're going to go over it. There is an update on this case that I was able to find. So federal agents, this is when the raid happened. So federal agents uncovered a suspected torture chamber in London. DEA agents were searching for a man tied to multiple drug investigations, discovered a sheet metal structure described as a torture chamber on a property in London. The suspect, his name's Scotty Shelton, and he looks like a big, scary dude. He looks like he is super country fed, probably walks around in bib overalls and just one punch knockout kind of guy. Rick, I think this it's very odd. This whole case is very odd. So agents found disturbing evidence, including buried drugs and bones everywhere. It's weird. There's a lot of weird stuff. A federal grand jury did indict Shelton on new drug and weapons charges, including possessions of 83 guns and homemade silencers. There's more than meets the eye with this guy. And it's almost like he's never existed. And I can't find anything about him anywhere except for this case. And I can't even find much, not a whole lot on his previous drug case that ended up him in London. I don't even know if this guy's from London. Nobody seems to know anything about him. I'm trying to look into the property card. I've got a couple of realtors that are looking into getting the property card. I want to know who owns that property. And then I can start tracing stuff a little bit. Bonnie, I do think that maybe there's a witness protection situation. I'm trying to figure out, where did this guy originate from? How did he get dumped in London, Kentucky? It is, Rick, it's kind of Silence of the Lambs kind of stuff. And like the major media outlets never even touched it. The Kentucky, the state news did, but it was like, we reported it, poof, gone. They never followed up on it. I can't get it out of my head because I'm dying to know. I even reached out to my cousin, who's a DEA agent in Charleston, South Carolina. I said, hey, man, can you please find something on this guy? And he's like, sorry, man, I can't. I was like, come on. Just slide a little note under the table. Or just leave it in a briefcase by the park bench. Come on. He wouldn't do it, though. I did try. I tried really hard. I tried to get as much out of him as I could. Yeah, Rachel, don't stay off the grid for sure. Well, we're going to get to that here in a minute, Bonnie, because that's a big deal. So the investigation is still ongoing, according to the internet, which the internet never lies, and it remains remains federal in scope. It's going to maintain federal. It's probably going to just disappear off the map one day. If he was in witness protection, they're going to put him right back in it. So London City Council held a meeting on Monday. It wasn't so much the meeting, except for the current acting chief of police, Gary Mailer, who I talked about in one of my shorts this morning. But Gary Mailer, there's an issue with the NCIC. So for those of you who don't know, it's like the National Criminal Database that you have to be specifically involved in an investigation or looking into something specific to access that database. It's specific for law enforcement. The City of London held the system. So apparently the FBI figured it out that they were looking up, apparently, Randall Weddle's enemies. Now, I have a theory that my name is on that list, and I'm going to find out for sure. And which that's going to be a me and Bobby Day problem, who's the former acting chief. So it's a federal crime to just look people up for the hell of it. You can't just use the NCIC just to be nosy to see what people's backgrounds are. It's not something that can happen. And there she is, the infamous Smokeahannes. So you probably, Nicole, you probably are on that list. London does it. I'm going to tell you right now, before I dig back into this, Pulaski County is its own entity of crazy. And at some point, I'm going to probably get a hold of Darlene Price and we're going to go over some notes together. There's a lot with Somerset specifically, and outside, like in Burnside, those places are eerily creepy. You know, I know Rick, you're definitely on that list for sure. But so anyway, the acting chief gets up in front of the city council and they ask him, he's like, oh, this was an administrative error. I'm sorry, but if my name's on that list, there's no way that's an administrative error. For one, I don't live in the state of Kentucky. For two, you can't misspell, like if you misspell my name, like you got to exactly know how to spell my name. There's a lot of letters in there that don't belong in there. So there's no way you could administratively screw that up. So I think he probably should have just kept his mouth shut instead of making that statement, because now he looks like an ass. and he just lied in front of the city council. So Bobby Day's probably could potentially get arrested. Also, Jamie Sloan, who was part of that, I think that's the person that pulled all of the information. He resigned from his position with the 911, and I think he's probably going to get it. But if he was smart, there's no way he did it on his own. Somebody told him to do it. So if he was smart, he's going to make a deal with the feds and rat out everybody, which is probably what's going to happen, because from what I hear, Jamie Sloan's a family guy. He's going to try to cut his losses. So that's turning into a whole thing. So then the FBI issued a statement, and that was read, and they said, effective immediately, the NCIC system needs transferred over to the Laurel County Sheriff's Office. London no longer has access. So then John Root was quoted as saying that, yes, this is an active investigation. So it's nice to see that John Root's actually finally doing something. Of course, I think he wouldn't have if it wasn't for the FBI jumping in there, making him do it. So there's that. So we're going to see what transpires out of that. That's the 4th or 5th time the FBI has popped their head out in the last 2 weeks. So the FBI has been very silent for the last year, and now all of a sudden we're seeing them. So that tells me that things are going to start getting hot and heavy around London, I would imagine. Well, so there's a difference between an NCIC and like a regular like criminal history background check. NCIC's got a lot more information involved in it. It's a whole other different ballgame. Plus, it's a federal database. So when you're there just playing games with the federal database, that's going to piss some people off. And somebody will notice. And they did. The feds noticed. So now, I've been kind of hinting at this, but I'm going to do a full diagnostic on the city. Well, I don't know exactly if it's a city thing or if it's a county thing. I think it's a city thing. I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to correct me. But we're going to talk about Richard Todd Roberts, because some smart-ass reporter in Clay County who thinks he's somebody important and is tough as shit decided that he was going to say mean things about Bonnie. He did it in his publication. And so I went after him a little bit and said, all right, man, if you're not going to apologize, then I'm going to expose all the people that you know. And this is where I started, because Mr. Richard Todd Roberts is originally from Clay County, and he's linked to all these clowns over in Clay County. So I dug into his whole life, exactly how unprofessional for somebody who runs a media outlet, which is the Manchester blah, blah, blah. I'm not even going to give him any props or have anybody looking it up, because it's a worthless newspaper. So Richard Todd Roberts is the president, from what I understand, from what I found. I don't like seeing people get bullied, Bonnie. So he's the president of the London, Kentucky Tourism and Convention Commission. So you might think, well, who cares about the tourism industry? Blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a reason why I care about this. For one, Randall Weddle has fighting tooth and nail to get as much money as possible funneled to the Tourism Commission. That was red flag number one. Anytime Randall Weddle hyper focuses on something, I go look at it and I go try to figure out why. I believe there's several crimes going on here. FBI, I know you guys watch my show. So according to his professional profile, if you want to call it that, Richard Todd Roberts serves as president of the London, Kentucky Tourism and Convention Commission, where he works in events and tourism sector. What he does, he has extensive experience in event services. I guess if you count burning down buildings and starting his own drug ring, event services, then yeah, he's pretty experienced. He's got all these like made up bogus experiences, whatever. I'm glad you brought that up, Nicole, because I've noticed the same thing between the housing authority and tourism. It seems to be the two agencies that these city leaders like to funnel money through. Yeah. No, you're on the right track. So he's also, now tell me if this isn't a conflict of interest. Richard Todd Roberts is also the owner and executive of Kentucky Bourbon Tours. Well, does that sound like it's for the tourism industry? It surely does. Now, I would be willing to bet, and I can't say this for sure because I don't know, but I'd be willing to bet that there's tourism money that he's signing off on that's going to his business. That is a problem. That's a big problem. So this business started, apparently he filed for it to be a business March 3rd of 2015. It's an active status. It's for the business type is designated for tourism and specializing in the bourbon distillery tours. So there's also, he's attached to, and I don't know if this is still active. You guys in the comments from London are going to have to tell me if this is correct or not, but I found this on when I did my search of his businesses. Todd's Guns LLC, which the business was called One Stop Firearms. Now, I'm not sure if that's still a business or if he turned it into something else. So don't quote me on that, but this is what showed up in his public record. Richard Todd Roberts is a former Manchester, Kentucky police officer who later became assistant chief of police and was federally prosecuted for racketeering-related crimes. Who else seems to have a racketeering problem? Well, let's continue on. The most authoritative public records show he pleaded guilty in 2007 to a racketeering conspiracy tied to corruption inside Manchester city government. So who appointed this guy to the tourism board? Oh, it was Randall Weddle. So key facts about Richard Todd Roberts. He was hired as a Manchester police officer in 1996. He was promoted to assistant chief in 1998. And then he resigned in 2006. So he only made it 10 years. According to federal filings and news reports, he was indicted by a federal grand jury in 2007 as part of a racketeering conspiracy involving Manchester city officials. Roberts pled guilty to the conspiracy. He admitted involvement in a 1999 arson of Johnny Taylor Smith's home carried out with Councilman Vernon Hacker and Bobby Joe Curry. Isn't it ironic that this guy's in London and now we have Randall Weddle's political opponent's buildings catching on fire? Jimmy Phelps's house caught on fire. Does this not all sound a little weird to you? One of his MOs is arson. I'm just saying, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying, hey man, there may be 1 + 1 that might add up to something here. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. But I look at patternistic behavior and there seems to be a pattern evolving, and there's more. We'll keep going. So the arson was part of a scheme to clear land for a new 911 center and police department. So he did this on behalf of the city of Manchester. So apparently he likes working for corrupt city politicians. Who did the tours when they were running around trying to harass the Smith family? Who did those? Who was the limos they used for that? Oh, that's right. It was Richard Todd Roberts. Yeah, I think we're up to 2 lawyers' offices now that caught on fire in the last 2 weeks. So the case was prosecuted in U.S. District Court, Eastern District of Kentucky, which is the London division. He was facing up to 20 years in federal prison, a $250,000 fine, and 3 years supervised release. It was subject to federal sentencing guidelines. His name also appears in earlier federal filings involving conspiracy charges related to drug and misuse of government funds, though those documents involve procedural motions rather than final convictions, which he was. Basically, from what I understand, is when he was a police officer in Manchester, he was confiscating drugs and then reselling them on the streets, ended up making over $1 million off of drug sales. This guy is running your tourism administration, and Randall Weddle keeps trying to give him millions of dollars. I'm just saying, maybe 1 + 1 = something. So there's also a federal judge reduced the sentence of 5 men involved in a long-running vote buying investigation in Clay County as well. All 5 have cooperated with federal investigators, so they snitched on people, and testified against local officials. Kenneth Day, former Republican election commissioner, involved in both drug trafficking and long-term vote buying. He helped place precinct officers who assisted in election fraud. He began cooperating after a 2005 drug arrest. He was sentenced, his sentence was reduced from 192 months to 9. He had 100 months taken off of his sentence because he did such a good job ratting on everybody. The judge there, Judge Reeves, he noted that this was one of the largest reductions he had ever granted. So it must have been the goods. Richard Todd Roberts was also part of that. Former assistant police chief, he admitted to helping a drug dealer burn down a vacant house so the city could buy the land. He also admitted to lying to the FBI. Is this pattern just keeps adding up? His sentence was reduced from 87 months to 47 months. That was noted for his cooperation and taking college classes while in prison. He paid restitution and fines. Of course, he had $1 million in drug revenue, and he only had to pay a $250,000 fine. So, he has some cash. He still has a bunch of businesses. He seems to be doing pretty well in life. Then there's Vernon Hacker, former Manchester City Council member and 911 director. He was involved in cocaine and pain pill conspiracy, accused of tipping off a drug dealer about police activity. His sentence was reduced from 120 months to 76 months. Then there's Eugene Mutton Lewis, longtime vote buyer. His sentence was reduced from 144 months to 100 months. Then there was Jennings B. White, former county clerk. He admitted to laundering drug money for Day and conspiring to bribe Hacker to retrieve seized marijuana. Is this Day related to Bobby Day? This just struck me. Kenneth Day. Can anybody find out if Kenneth Day is related to Bobby Day? Yeah, Rachel. The amount of organized crime that happens just in this 4-county area around London is insane. And the feds do bust them. So I don't know why they keep trying to do it, because the feds do eventually bust them. So Judge Reeves emphasized that he was not minimizing their crimes, but their cooperation was essential in prosecuting higher level corruption. Federal prosecutors supported the reductions. So there were some high-level people that these guys ratted on. Which, if I was Randall Weddle, I probably wouldn't do a lot of business with Richard Todd Roberts, because if he goes down, Randall Weddle's going down. Yeah, Donna, you better keep head on a swivel. Head on a swivel. So also, other officials convicted based on their testimony. The Clay 8. Former circuit judge R. Cletus Miracle was convicted of election fraud. Former school superintendent Douglas C. Adams. County clerk Freddie W. Thompson. Magistrate Stanley Bowling. Former Democratic election commissioner Charles Wayne Jones. Precinct worker William Stivers. Stivers is a huge political name in Kentucky, for those of you who don't know. Business owners William Bart Morris and Deborah Morris. Look, you've got all these prominent people in this area going down for committing major election fraud, major drug trafficking, arson. Like, you can't make this. This isn't a movie. This is real life. This really happened. And what it looks like to me is Randall Weddle took that script and said, hey, that worked out really well for those idiots down there. Let me recreate it in London. And let's bring over some of the yahoos that snitched on everybody and be part of my team. So there's that. They used the county election board to rig elections in 2002, 2004, and 2006. It's insane. Now, if anybody has information you don't want to share publicly on here, by all means, email me at theexpendableshow@gmail.com. I take information all day long. But it seems to be that the Londonites, the Weddleites, they aren't very secretive about their dirt. They just throw it out there and think that they're immune to prosecution. So we're going to see how that works out for them here pretty soon, I would imagine. The FBI seems to want to make their presence felt. And yes, we do need to protect Snowball at all costs. I could probably see if we can get a Secret Service detail for Snowball. Yeah. You got a good point there, Rick. But that's my show for the day. And I hope everyone's safe. Pay attention to London. These things, the things there are heating up. It's going to get crazy. I have this crazy feeling. Everybody be safe. Those of you in London, in Laurel County, please don't buy into any of the bait. Keep your mouths closed and just stay out of it. Let the feds go in there and do their thing. Don't try to light the fire. Let them just do their thing. That's my best advice for you. Just stay out of the way. That's what the feds keep telling me. Stay out of the way. Okay, I'll stay out of the way. But that's it. I'm out. Peace.